Alrighty, what is good? I hope everybody is doing well. This is going to be the market review for Thursday, January 16th. I'm kind of going to briefly touch on the dream model stuff, as well as kind of just covering what I was seeing today, the trade that I took, the short that I took, as well as that other trade that I was entertaining in the instance that failed me first, right? So immediately getting into the morning, right? Actually today, and today's a good representation of why I very, very rarely marry a bias, right? Usually a lot of times I'll pick out an idea of what I'm possibly anticipating, but in the instance that I am, or the area is violated, right? I need to be able and have the opportunity to flip my mind and trade in accordance to what price is telling me now, right? That's a very, very important factor. And I just want to clear that because today, I was actually looking for higher prices personally, right? Just based on structure here, I just wanted to follow what price is doing. Now, obviously, we do have a big old imbalance right over here that we could obviously say in hindsight that price is likely to come back and mitigate, especially being Thursday. We kind of get that little reset of the weekly range, right? Especially tapping into a higher time frame YEET level, which is actually a level that I sent out. I believe I want to kind of just plop that up here because I use this all the time. And if you use it or in the correct area, it's always a cheat code. Always a cheat code. It's one of the best ways I personally find levels. And it's kind of ironic what I'm going to say down here too, just briefly touching on this, right? So like I said, in the morning, I did want to see higher prices. And the only reason I say that is a lot of times with these higher time frame OTE, that's all this is. I'm actually going to show my settings real quick because I ignore the bottom level completely. I used a 0.705, which is the normal midpoint, but that's my bottom level, right? And then I used a 0.79, right? And then the 0.41 is a -1 deviation from this, right over, or that's not it, right over here, right down here. Off this higher time frame play. You'll see it on a lower time frame here in a moment once I show you the trades that I was entertaining this morning, right? So obviously, if we look at this, picture was clear today, but like I said, I was possibly anticipating a deeper mitigation of this OTE level, right? OTE. Only reason being is we had this basically, it's a balanced price range, but we had peak consolidation up here, so I wanted to see price dig up a little bit over there, and usually moves like this that occur like this usually will come up and take that. Obviously, maybe sometime in the future, if we kind of stay in a range without coming all the way down to this low, I could definitely see this being a double tap right up here at this. What is this? Why? Get a number on that specifically. 21.56675. That is the YEET level for this current one. This is on M&Q, by the way, on TopSupX. So it could be a little bit different just depending on whatever platform you're on, right? So kind of going back to what I was expecting this morning, the reason I wanted higher prices was, like I said, I wanted that deeper mitigation. And the areas over here, honestly, what I was really looking at, and I'll show you my invalidation point with this too, was this right here, right? Obviously, we had this unmitigated zone below, but I wanted to see how price respected this area. Obviously, we can say that this is a pretty sensitive area just by this tap into here, right? Once we started to creep up here, we had a 15-minute imbalance that we did close above. Let me find it. Yeah, this 15-minute imbalance right over here. So once I saw that kind of leading into right before New York Open, I was like, okay, more than likely what I'm going to anticipate, keyword anticipate, is that we could possibly run these highs, get a double tap in this area, then get that flush, right? Because obviously the high time frame is dictating that we could possibly have some sort of retracement. So my invalidation point for that basically was if we came down and took this low again. When that happened, I knew I was on the wrong side and had the idea, basically the wrong idea. So I needed to reanalyze basically and kind of rework what my plan and objective was for the day, right? So obviously, if we go down to, I want to first get into this first trade right over here, right? So once we violated that low, it was quite clear that we were going to run down here. And this is also like a higher time frame SBS right here, right? We have our 1, right? 2, 3, 4, 5. And it kind of plays out here to come up and do what? Rebalance this area right over here, right? So if we go down to a 1 minute, right? And this is what some people had a question on today specifically. Was what is YEET? And like I said, it's just OTE, right? And usually one of the best signatures to see is if you're taking a zone play and we have a relatively large displacement leg, right? I want to see that area line up near or at the 50% of that zone, right? So if we derive this low right over here up to this high right up here, right? What do we get? We get the 50% right here at 452, right? So if we measure this high down to this low, what do we perfectly see, right? That bottom YEET level is lining up where? Right at the 50%. There's going to be a high probable area, right? It's at least two confluences, right? I usually always look for 2 or 3 confluences to line up for me to be able to want to engage in a trade. That's how I maintain a high win rate. And essentially, it just, it gives you really ease of mind, right? And that's a huge thing to do. If things aren't lined up like so, then I completely basically ignore the trade, right? So this was the first trade that I took and the only trade that I did take today. And essentially all I did was, I believe my limit was at 453. I just did a blind limit here because I did not want to basically miss this, because I knew more than likely that price was going to go up and take this high, but there's been multiple times where I have missed, where I've gotten a little bit greedy in terms of my entry, where I've missed a limit or missed a move for that exact reason. So I came into this knowing that more than likely I was going to face a little bit of drawdown. Obviously, we got a 22-point drawdown phase from that area, right? But we can see this beautiful movement right over here, right? And that's one thing I always do is if I'm taking a trade in a zone, I always have a level that I don't want price to reach beyond, right? If we come up here and just completely violate this high over here and just start expanding up, right? It's not usually going to be a positive thing to see. And that's one of my favorite things to do with kind of zone plays like that, right? So again, all I did was derive this high down to this low. Those settings that I showed in the beginning lined up perfectly, right, with this zone play, right? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. What is the weak low in that scenario right over here? And what did we leave unmitigated, right? We left this higher time frame zone unmitigated, right? Look at the size of this. This is beautiful. And we have wonderful structure right at the 50% of this, right? So this was the other trade idea. And based on the same premises as the other one right over here, if we come up to the 15-minute, right? And we pull a what, right? From this low. Wait, let me move this really quick because this is distracting me big time. Right over here. This low, right? Up to this high. Where's our YEET level resting, right? Look how accurate these are. That's what I'm saying. If you just pull them off the correct area, and that's just going to come down to screen time. I can't teach really the correct area for you to do it. You're going to have to see it form multiple times, and your mind's just going to become adept to it, right? But if we have that labeled, right, and we bump down to a lower time frame, right, what do we have resting there? Look at this. And one of the most accurate points, in my opinion, of this is if you get a box from YEET low, right? Let me make sure I'm going off the correct area. Yep. YEET low, right up to YEET high, right? It's going to be one of the most accurate levels, in my opinion. You'll see this time after time. Price will come tap that midpoint of those two specific numbers and expand super, super hard. Like I said, my most accurate levels are off of this specifically, right? So on the same idea as this one up here, we had what lining up? We had YEET and we had the zone, right? This one right here. What do we have? YEET, we have the zone, right? So this was going to be basically it was either whatever was going to tap me first. It was either this short or this long. And you can see the accuracy of both pinpoint, right? We come down, we tap that area, boom, right at the 50%. Barely any drawdown. I believe it was like 10 points. Yeah, 10 points of drawdown from 32750. And I'd sent this out prior, right? So obviously no hindsight warrior here, right? And this is one I'm okay with, basically doing a complete blind limit, right? And just have a stop, and then it should give a really, really quick adjustment. Like if we get on to the 15-second, I could probably tell you where I'd be adjusting my stop and trimming it super tight. Probably once we got a nice body closure up above this high right over here, right? I confidently go maybe break even. Just, if you look how accurate this entry is, price really should not return down here, especially with this V shape. And that's just kind of a little thing to note, right? So obviously today, and it's kind of ironic that this happens because I think this happens almost every time that I release like a kind of an entry technique. But I would say the last 2 days have been definitely a little bit harder, especially if you're mechanically taking dream model, a little bit iffy. And that just comes down to price action, right? But if you're able to kind of filter out some of the messy noise, like if we're chopping, etc., right, you've been probably cooking. Because there's been a lot of people on Twitter that have added me, and it's been a beautiful sight to see, right? But I do want to talk about a couple things that I look for specifically for those dream models, because I did say that you do need narrative, right? Narrative is a huge important factor in trading, in my opinion. If you want to have a super high win rate, right? Narrative, logical areas where you're engaging with price, right? So usually what I will do, and this is just codependent, sometimes I will blind limit zone, sometimes I will wait for extra confirmation. It really just depends how price is moving that day, right? And that's not something I can really just give you like a textbook answer to. Like, for example, if we come up to a zone or something towards YEET, right, and we start consolidating right below it, right, I will gladly place a blind limit, right? But if we just expand straight up to it, right, that's when I would be looking for extra confirmation. So I do want to talk about this 5-minute one first right over here, because this is pretty beautiful. Once we came up here, we did, right, we delivered this high time frame 101 right over here, right? So we could possibly expect price to reach back down into this area, get a deeper mitigation, right? At that same time, we were still putting in lower highs right over here, right? So if we go over and look at the 15-minute coincidentally, right? This is why I always have the 15-minute chart plopped up on my screen, right? It just really clears the picture and allows you to understand what's going on, right? Because if we really look at this, right, what do we see, right? Where is the most prominent point, right? If we're looking on a structural point, what do we have right up here, right? 15-minute CSS. We draw this over, boom. Actually, I want to put a box around it so it's a little bit clearer, right? We have a 15-minute CSS. What does price do? Price comes up, rejects it, takes this high, right? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is already creeping up on a grade scale of, I would deem this probably an A setup, right? I wouldn't say this is A plus because it's missing one thing, and that's just closing below it, a low, right? A swing low on your time frame you're taking it on, right? So we do have that sweep, right? We come up, we reject that 15-minute CSS. Beautiful, 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 right? And probably at the same point, I do want to measure this. I don't think it got all the way up. Yeah, it just missed YEET barely, right? Just missed it barely. That bottom portion right there, missed it by 3 ticks. You can see how accurate that is. A lot of times that will happen, where you get into an instance where you're literally off by like a couple ticks. I've had that actually happen to me, I believe like 2 weeks back, and I'm kind of going on a tangent, but there was one time that I missed. It was complete low day, and I missed it by like 2 ticks. My limit just got completely missed. Pretty unfortunate, but I mean, it comes with accuracy, right? It's not a bad problem. Not a bad problem at all, right? So like I said, 5-minute. What are we looking for here, right? Close above, close below. What do we get, right? We get that nice close below. What do we get on a lower time frame level? One of my favorite signatures to see specifically. What is this right here? Indecisiveness, right? What are we anticipating? Where's the logical area that price is going to come up and mitigate, right? We're already coming off that 15-minute CSS, so we have narrative to expect price to do what? Reach lower, right? We could even get some sort of deviation projection off of this, right? So we have that narrative, right? What do we see right here? Where should manipulation happen, right? It should happen on a mitigation of this area, right? So we could deem this as our manipulation right up here, right? Following after manipulation, what should happen? Distribution, right? We come down, attack this low, maybe attack this wick. I personally probably would have been targeting the midpoint of this wick right here. Usually when we get an extreme wick like this, I will always look for an exit there personally, right? So dream model wise, where are we looking for an entry? Right? We come up, we tap the 30 here, right? This closes right here, wicks up one more time. So more than likely, we could probably, no, I would deem it off this because it closes up there, comes back up, taps it, right? If we come here, we could put our stop where, right? Boom, at this high, what does this do? Melts, right? Like I said, more than likely I would have been targeting midpoint of that. Nice 3-hour trade there, right? So if we go over here, this is kind of one of the better examples on this retrace leg right up here, right? And if we know and are confident in what, and this is usually how I kind of gauge if I want to use OTE, is have we been respecting it, right? Have we been respecting it throughout the day, right? If we have, then it's a logical thing to use. All right, I need to delete this because chart's getting too cloudy. Chart's getting too cloudy, right? So if we look at this right here, right? What do we see? Price is doing what? Price is in a retrace phase. Where are we coming back up to? Right up here. Right? Where's peak consolidation? This is a one-sided move right here. There's no consolidation in this. Where's price likely to go? Get a deeper mitigation to where? Peak consolidation, right? What do we see price do right here? What do we form? Nice 3-minute CSS. We close below this candle. We close above. One of my other favorite signatures to see is this right here. You see how we established this high right here. If we get a body close above that, right? That's going to be, I would deem this an A setup again because it's missing one thing for it to be an A plus, and that would be a sweep, right? That's the A plus entry. We have a sweep, we have a close above high, we have the CSS, boom, A plus, right? So this one specifically, what do we see, right? Close above, right? CSS, that close below right there, close above there. What do we see, right? Where are we taking our entry, right? We get this 30% mitigation here. That candle does not close back up above. This is our expansion candle. This is where we'd be taking our entry, right over here, right? Right above here, stop down here, boom. What can we target? Right up into YEET, right? We could target that 1R, right? Right here. Obviously, as we're creeping in this area, that would be a logical point to exit, especially with this closure below this low over here. This would be illogical to try and take to these highs. You'd just be shooting yourself in the foot, in my opinion, right here, right? And you can see wonderfully, this would have been such a textbook short right here, had this have got a 30% mitigation right here in regards to a dream model, right? Let me delete, or let me drag this over just a little bit, pull it over here, right? What do we see right here, right? This is our YEET right here, right? What does price do? Price comes up, taps that top level. What are we tapping into, right? 3-minute CSS, okay? We have that confluence. Where's price likely going to go? Just based on structure, right? Lower, right? This is a weak low down here. Price should be attacking this, right? Not up here, not up here. So we have that UTAP, right? And like I said, this would have been such a textbook short had this got a 30% mitigation right here, right? So just for example's sakes, I do want to draw a wick right here. And let's just say that tapped the 30%, right? Where are we taking our entry, right? Well, first and foremost, where's our CSS? Since this candle did not close above this high with the body, where would I be deriving my area and total range from, right? It would be this candle right here. Why? We closed above that high, closed below. That's going to be the area I want to engage in. That's going to be the area that I pinpoint in terms of 30, 50, 70, etc., right? So for this example, where would we be taking our entry, right? Below this candle right here. Where would our stop be, right? Stop would be here, right up at this high, boom. Now, understanding structure, where's price likely going to go? What do we not have down here? An extreme wick, right? Easy target down here, another 3.48R, right? Now, I think there really wasn't, there's barely any dream stuff today, dream model stuff. I do believe there was one in overnight, I want to say. I remember seeing someone post it on Twitter. I don't remember where it was exactly. Ooh, right here. I think. Yeah, okay, that one didn't close below. All right, so here's a good one right here. There's another one with that swing low being broken below. The reason I like that is it's a zone on a lower time frame in most cases, right? So this one specifically, where would we be highlighting our area, right? This candle did not do what? It did not close above this wick right here. Since this is the most recent break of structure candle right here, you can see we closed above this high. This is going to be what? The total range I'm going to use to highlight this, right? So if we look at this, where would we be taking our entry, right? We get this 30% mitigation right here. This does look like it shoots down, so I'd be taking my entry on a sell stop below this low right over here, right? So once that happens, what do we see, right? Boom. Stop could be at that high. We get tagged in here, zero drawdown, boom, immediately flush. We zoom out a little bit, where's the nearest low, right? We even have this little pocket of structure right here to target, right? So just logical things at that current moment, right? That's what you need to be thinking. Is there one of the biggest things, and I always voice this all the time, if you don't have an unmitigated area where you're targeting or you're taking a trade and you don't have an unmitigated area, it's not going to be a high probable trade in my opinion. You always need somewhere or something unmitigated for price to draw to. If it's not there, it's not going to be high probable. That's one of the best things in my opinion. If you look for an unmitigated area, right, and your model is forming, could be a dream model, could be a zone, etc., right, whatever. You need to have something unmitigated for price to gravitate to. Otherwise, it's just going to be lethargic, could be a stop, right? It's such a simple thing, but it's such an important thing, right? Just a simple thing to look at. So in terms of dream model setups, I just want to basically explain this in terms of how I would grade them, what my highest risk would be on one, not number-wise, but the setup, right? So like I was saying earlier in the video, it would be a sweep, a fail to close, right? This is the A++. Sweep, right? We get that fail to close. We establish back in the range, right? We get the, I'll find an example right here, right? We're going to use this as an example of what the A+ would be because I really don't feel like going back through a couple days just to find one when I can explain it when this is almost it right here, right? So obviously we have the higher time frame confluence, this right here, right? This is the first part. This is the key part, right? We have this sweep. We have this fail to close. Why is it a fail to close? We failed to close above this high, right? We didn't close a body above it. That's how I usually use my sweeps if we close a body above, not something I favor, right? Usually want to see a fail to close, right? So what would have made this A++? Had we have expanded down here and closed below this low right here, then retrace back up to this, that would have been A++. That's why I said this is just an A setup, right? Why? We have the sweep, we have the CSS, we have the high time frame confluence. Still an extremely high probable signature to see in price, right? But in terms of what the A++ setup would be, it's a sweep, close below, low or high for the respected trade, and we have the CSS, right? So just something to note. And actually, I want to see, because there was someone that commented that wanted me to cover something. Let's see. Capacities, things like 1 minute, 10 second, 3 minute, 30 second to use the dream with those combos. I mostly use dream entry technique, like dream model entry technique, with what I've already said in this video, right? It's going to be off of zones. It's going to be off of unmitigated areas. It could be a high time frame wick. I do pay attention to 1 hour wicks. I pay attention to 4 hour wicks. You could treat those as zones, as Dave talks about. Those areas I will use OTE, aka YEET. And if you want the levels for that, it's obviously in the beginning of the video, right? I will use, I think I already said zones, right? Zones, wicks, YEET. Those are the main areas. Usually, this is the rule of thumb I have, and this is usually how most times I avoid chop, right? So if we go back up to this one, and this is why it's important to have levels, in my opinion. Levels keep you out of terrible price action most times, right? So if we look at this right over here, right? A novice trader would see this and probably get absolutely smoked in this right up here, right? If we go down to the 1 minute, right? Look how nasty this is over here. Yes, people can trade this. Do I want to trade it? No, right? I don't want to waste the mental capital on this at all, right? But if we simply have our high time frame key area where we're expecting a pivot, what do we completely avoid right here, right? If we know and have this level down here at 32750 plotted, all this is right here is just accumulation, right? Above a key area. Do I want to engage in anything up here without a mitigation down here? Absolutely not. Not even remotely, right? It's illogical. You're just asking to get smoked if you're doing that, right? That's why you need key levels, right? I won't engage until price reaches this. When price comes up and taps YEET up here, I won't engage until that level's met. I'm not going to chase price down here. That's dumb. That's just dumb. You shouldn't be doing that, right? If you want to be in this for a long term, you need to have that discipline, right? You need to have the discipline to trust your levels, and once those are met, engage with price. Everything else that happens away from those areas is just noise. Just ignore it, right? Obviously, you can build narrative on how price is moving, how price is expanding, etc., but that comes later, right? Once you build enough screen time and have enough market experience, you'll be able to kind of understand that and understand what to use at that given moment, right? So obviously, won't engage until you eat. That's why it's important to have those levels, like I was saying. Now, if we go back, just kind of re-wrapping up. So I've explained the dream stuff, what I look for specifically, where I look for it specifically, the two trade ideas, and then the one execution. And then if we go back up to the hourly chart right over here, right? This is what I was talking about, right? You'll see this on a fractal nature, right? Like I said, this level down here is just a -1 deviation from this 542 right up here, right? Look what happens. What do we meet towards the end of the day? Right at close, that -1. What do we wick off of? That, exactly. You know what I mean? It's just a beautiful thing to see, right? It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. And I don't know if this was super organized. This is more of like a brain dump than anything. But in terms of today's market review, that is basically it. I am hoping that we get some cleaner movement in AM session. So there's a more, I would say, dream model setup entries that I can discuss and talk about in market reviews. But then again, this is why I have multiple entry techniques. Do I recommend most to have multiple entry techniques? Probably not. If you're not disciplined, just find one. That's all you need. But this is why I have 3, right? It allows me to engage in the market in most cases. When one isn't presenting near as much on that given day, right? I have 2 others that I use, right? And that's just, right? Zones, YEET, and the dream model, right? Simple stuff like that, right? No reason to overcomplicate it. But like I said, I do believe this is going to be it for today. I'm going to get this out as soon as possible. And I hope this kind of clears up some stuff specifically in what I personally look for in terms of other entries, the dream model, et cetera, et cetera. So with that being said, I hope you'll have a blessed evening, and I will talk to you later. Peace.